Hi there, welcome to Bent TV. I'm your host Malice, and as usual we've got a great lineup tonight and I can't wait to watch the show with you. Up first this evening is a story on what it means to be queer and also part of the Arab community. It should prove to be very interesting indeed. Let's join Ghassan now.
My name's Ghassan Kassassia and I'm the author of the We're Family 2 report. It was a report that was commissioned by ACON and some community organisations including the Arab Council of Australia. It's the first report of its kind looking at the effects of homophobia in Arabic-speaking communities, and it also looked at the issue of racism and racial exclusion amongst gay and lesbian communities. The project itself started in 2004. It's been a long process of trying to get access to people who are willing to be surveyed, interviewed, part of focus groups. So the period of data collection was between 2005 to 2007. The sample itself was 37 people who were survey respondents, but the report also looked through focus groups at community welfare workers, community leaders, religious leaders who also interviewed, as well as family members. And then the steering committee looked at the findings and came together to try and work out, well, where to go from now. It's still now scoping at ways forward, ways that we can start the conversation and start to build the bridges between the Arabic community and the gay and lesbian community. One of the overriding themes which we heard about was this issue of the fact that sexuality isn't talked about generally in the Arabic-speaking community, which meant that homophobia was not addressed. Once a relative had come out, they had nowhere to go to find out information, particularly because they were concerned that if other members of the family or the community found out, then their reputation and their family's reputation would be damaged as a result. They were living a sense of a double life where if you wanted to disclose your sexuality and you wanted to be part of a gay and lesbian community, they had to make a choice between their sense of Arabness and being open about their sexuality. They experienced high levels of rumours being spread about them from people within their community. Part of the issue was that when people did disclose their sexuality and became part of gay and lesbian communities, they actually met with the opposite issue, which was racism from within the community. They felt either marginalised because they were ignored or invisible, or they were sort of hand-picked because they were Wog or Arab and seen as, you know, that was a sexually attractive quality, and that was the kind of attitude. They were either ignored or overly paid attention to, and they didn't like being treated as if they were just a race. They wanted to be treated as a human being. Some of the results were surprising. We found that 3 in 4 people had experienced physical violence from within their own communities, Arabic communities and their families, and 1 in 4 had actually experienced the threat of physical violence. So there were some high levels of physical and verbal abuse reported. Some of the surprising differences we found were, first of all, 7 out of the 37 that I mentioned, survey respondents reported being taken to a religious leader to be cured or a doctor to be cured. So this idea that sexuality was a choice, was an illness, particularly a Western illness, something that was imposed on the community from the outside and could therefore be corrected or cured, was a finding that came through. And this idea that you had to be married, have children, move out of home post-marriage was an issue that went across the board for both men and women. Some of the differences, though, were that men could express sexuality in discreet ways, and it wouldn't be policed to the same degree that maybe women would feel. Some of the positive findings which we also found were there's actually quite a bit of support. Once people had disclosed their sexuality to, say, mothers and siblings, they found that some people within their families were more supportive than perhaps they'd expected them to be. The issue was that within the family, different levels of support from different people, and it was difficult to predict who would be supportive, but siblings on the whole were more supportive, and mothers as well, than, say, fathers or extended members of the family. And people were selective around who they told on that basis as well. What the report does is it opens the conversation, it shows some of the nuances and the differences within Arabic-speaking communities for same-sex attracted people and their family members. So some of those nuances are positive, like the sense of family, the sense of collectiveness, the idea that you look out for one another. And part of the project was learning how to leverage some of those positive qualities to make better outcomes for gay and lesbian relatives who disclose their sexuality, as well as their straight allies who wish to have more positive relationships with their families. So this wasn't a project about homophobia within Arabic communities specifically. It was about homophobia generally. It was about violence that was experienced by people who were same-sex attracted from across the communities that they're part of, whether it was at work or within, on the street, as well as, within gay and lesbian spaces. And it was about trying to see what the specific nuances of that experience was, to try and develop a conversation that was both culturally specific and sensitive, as well as sexuality affirming and self-determining. To find out more information, they should go to www.wearefamily2.com.au, and all the media stories which the report has had are up there, as well as some support resources. You can find a copy of the report, and there's also an ability to connect to some of the groups that are involved in this space, and hopefully more announcements will be made as the project develops.
That certainly did clear some things up for me, and I hope it enlightened you as well. Don't touch that remote, we'll be right back. You're tuned to Bent TV, and another thrilling segment coming up. This one is Quedia with Steve and Simon, and it promises to intrigue and possibly puzzle, and I hear has something to do with a time machine. I wonder if it's in the form of a DeLorean. Let's join the fun now.
Good evening and welcome to Bent TV. My name's Steve Pereira and welcome to Quedia. This is our very own Bent program where we explore all things queer and everything media. Eclectic is what we aim for, eclectric is what you get. Today we start off with somebody from our very own home team. We've got Simon Robinson. Simon's on our board. He's also a volunteer coordinator, so when you call up to volunteer, which you will very shortly, you will be speaking to our fabulous Simon. But don't call right now, because Simon's going to be talking to us about his other side of his life. When he's not doing things bent, Simon runs a theatre company. Welcome, Simon, to this side of the camera.
Hi, Steve.
Good to have you on board. Here.
Thank you. Good to
Tell
be
us about your fabulous theatre company.
Bear Elements Productions. We've been operating in Australia since about 2008. Set the business up back in the UK mid-late 90s, and then for completely unrelated reasons moved to Australia, resurrected one of the stories for a bit of fun for some friends. The humour seemed to translate, and it kind of inspired me to go into the comedy festival in 2009 for the first year, and then we've been in ever since, and it's grown from there. So,
dinner theatre. Now, for an urban sophisticate like myself, who looks down on dinner theatre, all things dinner theatre. No, tell me. I mean, it's got a reputation for being suburban. Is it really suburban?
Well, ours isn't, because we operate in the cities, in the CBD. So, in purely geographical reasons, it's not suburban. But I think it's, we prefer to call it interactive comedy theatre, which just so happens to be accompanied by a meal.
And how is it interactive as opposed to just straight dinner theatre?
Because the characters, the cast, actually have dinner. So you're sat next to the characters. They're interacting with you. So there's the scripted sections of the show, but then there's a certain amount of improvisation that takes place. So whilst you're eating, you'll be chatting to one of the cast members or playing their character.
Who might perhaps die during the process of the dinner.
They could indeed die, yes.
So they fall flat in their soup?
It's possible, not wanting to give too much away, but yes.
Does that cause alarm amongst the other guests, or is this something they expect now?
I think generally if they've bought a ticket to come to the show, they would have some inkling that something like that might happen, and much more besides.
And the crowds that you get to the shows, are they largely suburban, or do you get a good mix of people, inner city crowd people?
It's a wide variety. Literally, we've had kids, with their families have come, so as young as sort of 10, 12, right the way up through to older people, sort of 80 plus, so, and anything in between. We've got a lot of birthday parties, private bookings particularly. It seems 40th, 50th seems to be quite a common area, and we've got a lot of corporate parties, particularly around Christmas time. Companies looking for the office outing to do something a little bit different.
Now, my knowledge of dinner theatre is minimal, as I said, because I'm a snob. But but my impression of dinner theatre is there are lots of people in waistcoats going "what ho" or butlers popping out and people going, I don't know, very English, very sort of Midsummer Murders, very Agatha Christie. Is that still the case?
I think one of our shows, A Dinner to Die For, would probably fit that bill quite well. That's set in the 20s. It's Miss Marpley type character who rounds things up. Guests are invited to the birthday party of Lord Quinton Devontree. There is a butler.
There is a butler.
Yeah, and I suppose the humour is very what I love, which is the sort of carry-on humour, the are you being served type genre.
Lots of double entendres.
Oh, enormous amounts.
Pussy galores running around.
Absolutely.
Fabulous. But I do know your new show has actually got an 80s theme to it.
Yes.
And we've got a poster for it. And it's called The Time Machine. And we have one of your fabulous, possibly murderous, possibly. But I'm sorry, you've got a fabulous name, and it's Alexis
Carrying bag.
Fabulous to meet you, Alexis Carrying Bag.
Thank you. It's lovely to meet you.
And you're from the Carrying Bag Association in Industries.
I am. Yes. Yes. From Carrying Bag Global.
Now that harkens a bell to
Carrying Bag Global.
Dynasty. Oh, product placement, people. Leopard skin bag. Everybody buy one.
My latest. Yes.
The Dynasty reference is obvious.
Well,
There may be a slight.
There may be a slight. So,
loosely,
any
yeah.
relation to the Dynasty plot? Do people?
look, I may have a rival that does tend to pop up from time to time, and she's very, very irritating.
Is she also very, very blonde?
She's very, very fashionless, that's for sure. I mean, she's very bold and big, and she's a fashionless old trout, actually.
So is that the main rivalry that happens? Is this about the business, or is it about a man? It obviously is about a man. Come on.
Well, I guess it's about a man and money.
And money.
Money.
So can you describe roughly what happens? Can you give us an inkling of what to
Wow.
expect when we come in?
I can tell you that it begins at an event that I am hosting. I am hosting a fabulous event where you have the opportunity to come on the time machine with me, of course, and potentially carry my bags.
That's as exciting as that sounds.
I know. It's very exciting.
So, but where do you go to? Where am I bringing your bags to?
Well, who knows? Who knows where into the future we may end up.
Oh, so could you end up like in the future, like not 2013 somewhere else?
Possibly. Oh, I mean, that would be insane. But yes, 2013, walking around in spacesuits and all of that. Who knows?
Oh, getting out of spacesuits could be very interesting.
Yes.
So Simon, what with the shows? What's your end? When do people walk away from it? What do you want them to walk away from?
As far as I'm concerned, if they've had a memorable evening where they've laughed and been entertained and go away talking about it in a positive way, hopefully, is what it's basically about. Sounds a cliche, but yeah, I want people to have a great fun evening.
And how large is the cast?
There's a cast of 6 in the time machine.
Yeah.
It's set in the 80s, and we're there to witness the arrival of the time machine from the 30s.
And if I front up and I really don't want to interact, I just want to observe, can I do that and not be forced into anybody's carrying bag?
Well, I always put it that people can be involved or as much as little as they choose. Some people are really into it, and sort of we give each guest a little character of themselves. You can take that character on, interact with the cast. Those who prefer to sit back and watch, they're equally welcome to do so. So it's we don't make anybody do anything that they don't want to.
Fantastic. Now, do you have a regular location, or do you jump around the city?
Our regular venue partner is the Imperial, on the, just near Parliament, Imperial Hotel.
This is not a plug. This is a general information about the art scene in the city. Thank you all both very much. We look forward. I certainly look forward to my invitation to the show. I will come appropriately dressed.
Yes.
I'm not quite sure where I fit in the grand scheme of things. I could be the Indian mystic who comes in and sees into the future.
Fabulous. That would be great.
As I will see into the future. Thanks to Simon, and thank you to Miss Carrying Bag for deigning to join us.
Thank you.
You are with Ben TV. We have so much more for you on Quedia. Thank you.
I feel so much more cultured now with thanks to Quedia. If you feel like getting in touch with us at Bent, then we'd love to hear from you, and you can email us on feedback@benttv.org.au. or like us on Facebook by searching for Bent TV. We'll be back soon. Welcome back to Bent TV's final segment. Tonight we're finishing up with some sport, which I have to admit to knowing less than nothing about. So I'm looking forward to learning more with Malcolm Campbell, who they tell me is in fact sporty. Let's go to Qsport to learn more.
Good evening and welcome to Bent TV. You're on Q Sports with Malcolm Campbell, your host. I'm president of Team Melbourne. And tonight we have on the panel some guests to talk about queer sports here in Melbourne. We've got Heath Wilson and Andrea Goodinson from the Melbourne Rovers Soccer Club on my right. And on my left we have Shane Curry from Ultimate Frisbee and also my co-host Tanya Lewis. So we're going to talk about a few sports here in Melbourne and how they went over the summer period and what they've got coming up this year, 2013. So, well, I suppose we'll start on the right with the Melbourne Rovers, with Heath and Andrea. So, Heath or Andrea, tell me how Midsummer went for you.
It was a good event. As every year we participate with Team Melbourne, so it was enjoyable and a good time to be able to recruit for new members for the winter season.
Mm-hmm. And Andrea, how was it for you during Midsummer?
Yeah, it was really good. Really enjoyed it. Looking forward to the next one.
Yes, good. And did you participate in the Midsummer Sports Day?
Only briefly.
Yes.
Usually injured, so.
Oh, what? Get injured every summer?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And how about you, Heath?
Yeah, I missed the first one that we had last year, so I attended this one. It was great. It was a good opportunity for people within the community to be able to try various sports, be it soccer, basketball or swimming. It was great. Yes,
it was a great venue that we had this year at Victoria University. We tried it out west this year. The first year we tried it at South Yarra, and then this year was out west. So that's good. And so what have you got coming up for us in winter, Andrea and Heath, with your respective male and female teams?
For female, we have two teams that compete in the Victorian Federation Football League. They call it football, actually, in Victoria.
Yes.
Which they call soccer. So we have quite a high-grade team, state team, and then we have a metro team where anyone can play. So that's what we do during the winter.
That's great. That's great. And what position do you play, Andrea?
I'm kind of versatile, so wherever there's a gap. Mainly up front, sometimes in the middle, and occasionally at the back.
You're an all-rounder.
All-rounder.
Yes, all-rounder. Good. And Heath, what position do you play?
So I'm in the back, usually back right. So my days on the wing are far and truly past me. So
is that due to age and lack of fitness?
Lack of fitness and age. Yeah, I'm getting up there, and there's younger, better-looking guys who are able to tantalize the opposition. So.
Oh, good. But you can tackle them as they're going for goal.
My big ass blocks all the all the kicks, so I'm able to be a good wall up in the line of defence. So.
Okay.
So we've got Metro team, and we play men and women play for the Jets. Based over at Clifton Hill during the winter season.
We're going to talk to Shane Curry from Ultimate Frisbee about what goes on with Frisbee. So, Shane, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Tell us about your team, the funny name you have on your T-shirt. Tell us about that.
Funny duck. Well, we started as a hat team where just players were combined together for the local Melbourne League. And we just enjoyed playing together, and we continued on, and that was coming up 3 years ago now, 4 years actually, and just last year we had our first AGM to become an official club. So
you're incorporated?
We're now incorporated now, so
yes.
This year we became incorporated, so things are happening, happening quickly, but yeah, it's going really well with the club. So.
And tell us about Ultimate Frisbee. What is it?
What is it? Yeah, a lot of people ask that question. I think we're not quite as popular as football is, but we're growing all the time. It's a sport cross between, we like to say, American football and netball, where you can't run with a disc. You play on it's a team game, and you play on a field that's almost the size of a soccer pitch. It's 100 metres long, not quite as wide. It's about 40 metres wide, and you pass the disc between your teammates and catch it in the end zone to score a goal like a touchdown.
And you can't run with the disc, so it's a bit like netball like that, but you have 10 seconds to pass the disc off to...
it's like a hot potato.
It almost is a little bit.
Yeah.
You can move it pretty quickly sometimes. And the beauty about the sport is it's self-refereeing. There's no umpires, there's no refs. Even at the World Championships level, there's no...
Is there any allegations of cheating?
The whole one of the premises about the sport is the spirit of the game.
Yes.
And that's held in really high regard. It's part of the rules, and everyone really holds that true. So
there's no arguing?
I wouldn't say there's no arguing. There's always arguing. That I think the main thing is when there is a disagreement on the field. If a foul is called and people don't agree with that, just the disc gets sent back to the previous thrower, and we start the game again.
And so the disc, is it like the Frisbee we grew up with, that kind of Frisbee, or what?
Yeah, it's just a normal round plastic disc, 175 grams to be exact. This is generally one that we play with. And there's a whole heap of designs on it. We actually have a design of our own.
The funny duck.
And that's actually a mixed team, isn't it?
It is a mixed team, yeah. We've got currently training up for nationals in April with the open and women's teams. So the team I train with is Chile. It's the open team. And there's another men's team, Hoss, which is also trained in Melbourne. And then you have a couple of women's teams, Honey and Team Box.
Yeah, and these teams, are they GLBTI teams, or are they straight teams with GLBTI chucked in?
There's no GLBTI teams that I know of in Australia. I think there's one in the US, but it's not that big to have that many players. But there are a lot of lesbians and gays that do play the sport, even in our teams. Yeah, I know quite a lot of them.
And what sort of training do you do, the girls?
Girls, we train once or twice a week.
Yes.
Usually depends on the coach, really. It's usually Mondays and Wednesdays. It can be Tuesday and Thursdays. It just depends on on the scheduling with the grounds and things. But it's usually an hour and a half training each of those nights, and it's good fun. And we train in the rain. If it's raining, we're still there.
Well, you've got to play in the rain if it rains.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're not playing indoors.
No,
out on the ground.
Out on the ground, yeah.
Yes.
And it's such good fun. It's such a good way to keep fit and just hang out with your mates, really.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
And Heath, do the boys' team, do they train twice a week as well?
We do. So we train on a Monday or a Wednesday night. So.
Right. Is the training together, or do you train separately?
Separately. Because we have multiple squads, so we all can't fit on the same pitch at the same time. So there's two men's teams which train together, usually have a bit of a match at the end, and then the girls train on a separate field.
What do you call that when you have a match where it's made up at the end? What do you call it?
Scratch match.
Scratch or a scrimmage or something? Yeah. Okay. Good. And thank you everyone for watching Q Sports on Bent TV tonight. I'd just like to thank our guests before we depart, Heath Wilson and Andrea Goodison from the Melbourne Rovers, and also I'd like to thank Shane Curry from Ultimate Frisbee and my co-host Tanya Lewis. So thank you everyone again. Bent TV, Q Sports, look us up on Facebook and check our website for session details. Thank you. Good night.
Well, that's all we have time for, I'm afraid, but we will of course be here again next week at 10. Don't forget, Bent is a volunteer organisation and we're always on the lookout for more volleys. So if you feel like joining in the fun, please go to benttv.org.au to find out how to get involved. Plus, you can catch up on old episodes while you're there. Good night.